right, so I'm drinking green tea today out of my new Graphics Gear PC Engine Core Graphics Controller mug. Since we're talking about PC Engine games today. And we've got the camera facing a different direction today, really just because of the lighting conditions. Before we get started talking about the main topic today, last night my good friend Smoke Monster tweeted out something about, like, I don't know what made him say this or, you know, what was going on, but I don't remember the exact text of the tweet, but he was basically talking about Blockbuster and people's nostalgia for it and saying, he was basically saying, remember that Blockbuster is, you know, or was this huge corporation that, you know, moved into all these towns and put all the mom and pop rental stores out of business. And, you know, I guess maybe just sort of saying, be careful what you're nostalgic about. And like he compared it to like Starbucks putting like local coffee shops out of business or whatever. But it's funny, this wasn't really the point of his tweet, I guess, but what it got me thinking about was other people's nostalgia for Blockbuster. You know, I see people, you know, on Twitter and Instagram and whatnot, it's like, you know, there's sort of like memes about, you know, having that 90s nostalgia, and it's Friday night and we're going to Blockbuster to rent an N64 game or whatever. And, you know, I think I'm probably on the older end of the average social media user. And so whenever I see those, I'm just like, yeah. But really, I don't have any nostalgia for Blockbuster. As I've mentioned before, like where I grew up, like we were really late in getting a lot of the big like national retail chains. Like we didn't have a Best Buy until the late 90s. Like I remember going to Best Buy to buy like PlayStation games, but we didn't have a Best Buy before that. And it was the same thing with like Blockbuster. Like I didn't know anything about, like I don't even know how old Blockbuster is, but you know, all of my memories of renting movies and renting video games are from like locally owned mom and pop shops, or even from grocery stores. Like in the Christmas special that I did this last year, you know, we got the postcard from the guy that grew up in Oakhurst, and he mentioned renting games at the local grocery store. And I definitely remember doing that, renting both games and movies from the grocery store. But again, just like, you know, every rental store that I remember ever renting stuff from in like the 8 and 16-bit eras, those were all just like little locally owned places. And so that's what I really have nostalgia for, you know, places called like, you know, Video Zone and stuff like that. So that's not to throw any shade at Blockbuster. Like I understand that people have their nostalgia for Blockbuster, but it just made me more think about how like I don't really feel like I have any nostalgia for Blockbuster just because, you know, we didn't have that when I grew up. So anyway, so the topic of today's video is going to be hypocritical PC Engine pickups. And I'm calling it that for a number of reasons, actually. It's just sort of hypocrisy will be the running theme of the show today. And part of that is just because, you know, I'm sure I've probably said in the past that, you know, I often take somewhat of a dim view of pickups videos. But, you know, what I've come to realize is I like watching certain other people's pickups videos. What I don't like watching are, you know, people who go out to like the thrift stores or the flea markets or the garage sales, as much as you can even do that anymore, and just like hoover up everything and are just like rapid fire. I got this, I got this, I got this, I can resell this for this much, blah, blah, blah. I just don't personally find that entertaining. What I want to hear is, you know, okay, you bought a certain, like you went out with purpose and you bought a specific game because you wanted it. Why did you want it? And what insightful things do you have to say about that game? Because maybe that'll make me want to go check out that game. So I guess for me, I watch pickups videos to hear other people's opinions about games that I already have an opinion on, or to hear other people's opinions about games that maybe I don't know anything about. So that's my personal use case for pickups videos. But that being said, like I only buy games that I specifically set out to purchase. Like, I don't go out to the thrift stores or anything like that. I don't even go to video game stores. Like, I buy pretty much all my games either on eBay or just from other people online, like on Twitter or the forums or whatever. So every game I buy is a game that I specifically sought out to purchase. And so, you know, I would hope I would have some insightful things to say about those. So the last PC Engine pickups video I did, which I think was the only PC Engine pickups video I did, was all the way back in November of 2020, which I guess is only like 14 months ago, so it's not that long ago. But and so what we're going to talk about today is almost everything that I bought for the PC Engine in 2021. There's one accessory or peripheral that I bought that I want to make its own. Like, if you follow me on Twitter, you saw it at some point. It's a controller, but it's a special controller. I want to make my own a separate video about that at some point. But this is everything else I bought, and my video game purchasing has slowed way down because the prices have gone up so much. So I can only think of, I think, 2 retro games that I bought in 2021 that aren't this short stack of PC Engine games. Like, I think I only bought something like 7 games all year last year, which is fine. I'd rather, quality over quantity, right? Yeah, so anyway, so we'll get started here. So the first one, the reason that I would say there's a little bit of hypocrisy with this one is that in that last pickups video, one of the games that I showed off was Gradius, which, I think that the PC Engine version of Gradius is like the definitive version of the game. And I mentioned in that video that I wasn't so keen on getting a copy of Salamander, which of course we know in this country as Life Force, for the PC Engine because I just really like the NES version of the game a lot. I have that copy, and so I just never really felt the need to track down Life Force for the PC Engine. But then someone left a comment on the video saying, "Hey, I have an extra copy of Salamander if you want to buy it." And so I just asked him to shoot me an email, and he did, and we traded emails. And so I got Salamander. And like some of these games I've had for a year or more, so I don't remember what I paid for everything. I think I paid this guy about $50 for this game, which is just sort of like, that's the fair going price for Salamander. It's a Hue card game. Even though I said I didn't want it, I'm glad that I got it. And the reason for that is that this is much closer to the original arcade game. Where can I set this down? I'll just throw it over there. The NES version of Salamander, Life Force, is a pretty big departure from the arcade game. It really plays a lot more like a sequel to Gradius. So like in the arcade, Salamander, you don't get those like power-up tokens that Gradius gives you. So, Gradius, you get these power-up tokens. It makes that little sort of scale on the bottom of the screen advance, and when it hits whatever the power-up is that you want, you hit the other button and you get it, whether that's a speed boost, missiles, double shot, laser option, or shields. I think that's everything. That's how Gradius works, and for Life Force on the NES, they carried over that upgrade system, which I really like because it's a pretty unique upgrade system. But in the arcade, Salamander didn't work that way. Salamander just dropped power-ups the way most other shooters drop power-ups. So like, you would just get an option, or you would get the double shot, or you would get shields, or you would get a speed boost, which is fine because, like I said, that's how most shooters are. But it means you can really power up your ship really fast. Like by not even halfway through the first level, you've got a couple of speed boosts and missiles, and you're dragging a couple of options behind you, which, hey, I'm not complaining because it's a hard game. The game also is much faster. It's a lot closer to the speed of the arcade game. Some people have said it's faster than the arcade game. I'm not sure if I agree with that because the arcade game runs very fast. Like this, it's forced scrolling, just like Gradius. It's hard to say, forced scrolling. But the whole thing is scrolling by pretty quickly compared to playing Life Force on the NES. There's also some level differences, like the second level of Life Force, which is the first level where it switches over to being vertically scrolling, is not the same as level 2 in the arcade. So the two games are different enough that it kind of makes sense if you're a fan of shooters like me, and you're a fan of Konami shooters, it makes sense to have both. The one thing that, in my opinion, is missing from this version that was in the arcade is that there was a little bit of speech in the arcade. And I just think it's cool because, as I've said before, I have these great memories of going to the arcades when I was a kid. And this was, from the early 80s onward. And, back then I don't know enough about like arcade hardware to know how those games were generating some of the basic speech that it had. But it was rudimentary enough that like all the games, the speech sounded about the same. Like it sounded like the same, voice making all those, or doing all the speech. Like for instance, I remember Sam's Town, which I talked about in like episode 2 of Flashback. They had a Punch-Out cabinet, Nintendo's Punch-Out, and that game had some speech. Like when you went to fight Glass Joe, the game said something about like, Glass Joe, and it had like that really, digitized, sort of sawtooth sounding voice.
Ladies and gentlemen, Glass Joe.
And so whenever I hear that voice in other games, it gives me a little rush of nostalgia for like Sam's Town. And in the arcade, Salamander has speech, like a little bit. Like when the game first starts, the voice says, destroy them all. I think that's what it says, destroy them all, at the beginning of the first level. But then as you shoot the enemies that drop power-ups, the game will say, it'll go like, pick it up for option, pick it up for speed.
Pick it up for missile. Pick it up for vertical laser.
And it just sounds cool, just again for me because of nostalgia. But Gradius came out in like 85 and didn't come out for the PC Engine until like 91 or 92. And I don't know when Salamander came out, but I believe it came out in the arcade in something like 87. And I kind of feel like they may have released those games on the PC Engine because Gradius 2 was coming out. And so like Gradius on the PC Engine is actually an upgrade from the arcade version, as I talked about last time. And I think that they may have been sort of thinking the same thing with Salamander, because you can imagine at that time, that kind of digitized speech probably sounded, it just made the game seem old, and so they probably just took it out. But I kind of wish it was there. So, I don't know, that's all I have to say about that. But, yeah. Anyway, so the next game, so this one's going to be kind of a controversial take I have on this game, but have you ever bought a game, or really anything for that matter, online, and then you had buyer's remorse before the game even got to you? That's what happened to me with this next game. It was 2 games that I bought from like the same seller and whatnot, so they were coming together as a package. And while I was waiting for the package to get here, I was already just feeling like, why did I buy, even though at the time I felt good about the purchase, because it's a well-regarded game, I just started thinking about all the other games I could have bought for that price or less. And so like, why did I pick this one? And that is 1943 Kai, which I believe Kai means like modified in Japanese, which makes sense because this is a modified version of 1943. Now, I just want to say this because I'm going to complain a lot about this game. So I just want to say at the beginning here, this is a good game. I understand why people like it. I don't think this is a bad game. I just think that for me personally, this was a disappointing purchase. And now that I've had a chance to play through it quite a bit, I think I can say, in all honesty, that I regret buying it. And part of that is the price. I don't remember exactly what I paid, but this is about a $125 game. I might have paid a little bit less or a little bit more, but something around there. And I know that retro game prices have gone way up, but there are still a lot of great PC Engine shooters that you can get for $125 or less. But, I think I watched other people's videos about this game. I read some text reviews, and it really made me feel like, I want to pick up 1943 Kai. But if I had to describe the game in one word, it would be annoying. So just to kind of explain how the game works. So 1943, and this goes back to the original in the arcade and everything, you only have one life because you have a health bar. And it's a pretty long health bar. Like, you can take a lot of hits. And the game gives you, like, tons and tons of, like, health restoration pickups. So, like, the fact that you only have one life and whatnot, like, that's not my complaint. My complaint is that it has this long life bar, it gives you all these health power-ups, and it seems like it's just built into the design of the game that you're going to get hit a lot. And that just runs counter to just sort of every other shooter that I can think of. Like, with most shooters, it's like, okay, you set out, okay, I want to just beat the game. Like, however I have to do it, right? Using continues, whatever. Okay, I've been able to get through the entire game. Now I want to, like, 1cc the game, meaning I'm going to beat the game without any continues. And then if you want to go to the next step, you're going to say, okay, I'm going to beat the game without, like, ever dying, which in most games means without ever being hit, unless you have a game that has shields or whatever, and then that's different. But my point is at least in my opinion, from what I've played of this game, which is quite a bit, the idea that you're not going to get hit and get hit a lot is just like, forget about it. You're going to get hit a lot. And to me, that doesn't really make sense. But the reason for that is that there are just swarms and swarms of enemies on the screen at any given time. And a lot of them, it's almost like there's no pattern to it. Like most games, it's like, okay, these guys come in from this side, these guys come in from that side. They come in with a pattern. Maybe you can memorize that so you know where to be. But this game is just throwing everything at you. Like, there's like bullet hell games like Donpachi. This is like an enemy hell game where there's just tons and tons of enemies. Honestly, I'll say this. It's impressive that the game has very little flicker and slowdown for how much stuff there is going on the screen. I'll give it that. But it's almost like, it's just like chaos. And there's so many, it's like if you were being attacked by a swarm of bees or something. But then at the same time, there's also, like, at any given time, there's larger enemies on the screen as well that you're trying to, and they're like slower moving planes that are just kind of going back and forth and like shooting, out of the back of the plane at you. And so you're trying to shoot them, but a lot of them, like, they keep like going up and down in altitude, so that only when they're sort of at the same altitude as you are can you shoot them. But then they'll lower back down in altitude and you can't shoot them. But then you have so many other little enemies on the screen that while you're shooting them instead, and so like they're shielding the larger planes. And so like that gets frustrating, but also like a lot of these larger planes come up from the bottom of the screen, like they come up, like this. But you don't have any weapons that will shoot behind you. So like you're having to wait for them, and because they'll kind of come up like, they kind of go like this, But like really, like I'm doing it way faster than them, right? But then you have to wait for them to get up into the screen enough that you can get behind them and start shooting them, but all while all these other enemies are coming onto the screen. And it's just like that nonstop, like level after level after level. Speaking of which, like every level in the game is basically the same. Like you're flying over the ocean, shooting all of the exact same enemies. It's just like, oh, this level you took off from an aircraft carrier. Well, this next level you were already flying. This level is during the day, which you know because the ocean is like regular blue. Well, then the next level, the ocean is red because it's sunset. And then the next level, the ocean is like dark blue because now it's at night. But other than that, it's just like the same. And even the boss battles, like the only real bosses there's like gigantic planes or gigantic ships. And they're just really not that imaginative. And some of the gigantic ships, actually, those levels can be very annoying because I don't know if it's the last, I don't remember if it's the last level of the original game, but it's just this huge ship that's just covered with all these turrets. And it's like each one of those turrets takes so many shots to kill that you're just like parked in front of the ship, just like shooting as fast as you can, trying to destroy everything. Because with those ship bosses, those levels are still auto-scrolling, so that if the ship completely scrolls off the bottom of the screen, you just like lose that level and the game makes you play the level over again. And that's kind of annoying as well. Again, like I said, the game's just annoying. It's not like it's not fun, but it's just like, it's annoying. And like there's a saying, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. And that's like this game. Like, this is not $125 worth of fun. If this was like a $40 or $50 game, if this was like Gradius, Image Fight, Final Soldier kind of prices we're talking about, then sure, like I'll pick up 1943 Kai. But now, having played this game, it's not worth it. The last thing about it that annoys me actually are the power-ups. So this is kind of a common trope with shooters, but you get power-ups. There's like these groups of red planes that will fly onto the screen, and they fly in a pattern. And usually I think there's 5 of them. And if you shoot all 5, the last one drops a power-up that you can pick up, which that's pretty standard for shooters. But the problem is they all drop the exact same power-up, and it just says POW. And if you pick it up while it says POW, that refills some of your health. And so if you want it to be something else, like, I'm only using the standard weapon, which is really like underpowered, you have to shoot that power-up and it'll change into something else. And like some of the other weapons, there's like a spread shot. There's this weird like shotgun kind of shot. It's still a spread shot, but the bullets are like big and round, so I don't know. There's a shot that only goes straight ahead, but I think it's supposed to be like bigger caliber bullets or something. And then there's a shot that goes straight ahead, but it's like almost looks like a laser or something, like, so it'll go through enemies. That's probably the most powerful weapon in the game. Oh, you can pick up little options that will come next to you, but then like in this game, those options can also get hit. Like if you're playing like Gradius or Life Force, the options are invincible. It's just you that is vincible, which is not a word, but you know what I'm saying. But in 1943, your little options can get destroyed. But the thing is, so any weapon that you pick up has a timer on it. Like you get it, and it's okay, you have 30 seconds of spread shot or whatever. And if you want more, you have to pick up another spread shot power-up token. But again, in order to do that, you have to keep shooting whatever the power-up token is until it turns into what you want it to be. Except you don't really have time to do that because there's so much stuff. You can't just sit there and go, okay, I'm going to shoot this until it turns into the thing that I want. You just can't. And so it's just like, the whole game is sort of like semi-organized chaos. But the reason that so many people seem to like this game is that it has, I believe, 7 levels out of the original 1943. And at the end of that 7th level, there's like this little like cinematic thing that happens where it's like, okay, because your ship is like your airplane is like a biplane in this game. Like they take your plane and they go do all these upgrades to it and then send you back out. And so what happens after that is you have 5 more levels that are like brand new levels that were designed just for this game. And those levels rather, they have better graphics, better music. There's more variety between those stages. Your ship is more powerful, your weapons are more powerful, but the game still operates the same way. It's still that organized chaos or whatever, which is fine. I mean, that's the style of the game. But my problem with it is like, you have to slog through 7 levels of like something that manages to be chaotic and boring at the same time just to see these new 5 levels. And that's annoying, because what I would have rather they had done is just make a bunch of new levels, like make a new 1943 game. And then if you want to include the original game, then maybe say, okay, if you beat the game, you unlock the original game or something like that. If you play a game like 1941 Counterattack for the super graphics, I don't have the super graphics, but I have the Mister and I have a computer. Or if you have the Super HD System 3, I think you can load super graphics ROMs with that if you want to play on original hardware. Like that game is more like what I wish this game was like. But even if it had just been like the new levels from this game fleshed out more, this would have been a way cooler game. But the fact that just to see this cool new content, you have to just like wade through, 7 levels of the original game. It's just like, it's probably not a game I'm going to play again. And that's why I say I regret buying it, because like, what was the point of buying it? For $125, you can get so many other great PC Engine games. And so, like I said, while I was waiting for that game to show up in the mail, I was really having like buyer's remorse. And I was excited about the other game instead. Like, the other game, which I think I paid $50 for, I was like, I can't wait for that to get here. And that is Mr. Helly. My Japanese is not good, obviously, or my pronunciation, as people love to remind me. Mr. Helly no Daibuken, which basically means like Mr. Helly's Great Adventure or Adventures of Mr. Helly or something like that. This is an IRAM shooter. And I don't know why are IRAM shooters always so cheap? Like R-Type is cheap, Image Fight is cheap, Image Fight 2 is not cheap, and Mr. Helly is cheap. Like you can get all 3 of those games for like probably about $50. R-Type maybe a little bit more. But this is, so just off the bat, I'll just say, this game is awesome. But what I think is interesting about it, I think this game came out in the arcade, I want to say it was 87. I looked it up. I think it was in 87. And it really seems to me like somebody at IRAM went downstairs, one of the executives, went downstairs and told the shooter guys, we need you to make a cutesy, cartoony shooter to compete with like Fantasy Zone. And so like the guys were like, okay, we'll do it, because like you look at the cover, like the cover's very cute, it's got the pink and the blue, and you got Mr. Helly there. I don't know how well you can see it, but Mr. Helly is like a helicopter wearing sneakers. And when you start up the game, like the title sequence, it's got like this really like sort of upbeat, the kind of music that you would hear in one of these cutesy shooters. And then you start the first level, and it's like the same thing. Like the theme music for the first level is just like it's out of a Saturday morning cartoon or something. And so it's funny because if you play that game, if you're somebody like me who maybe is not like as hot on, the cutesy shooters, you might get turned off real fast. Like, this is maybe not for me. But what's funny is like, and this is why I say I think it was like somebody else that told the shooter people at IRAM, like, hey, you need to make a game like this. Because it's like, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, right? And it's just like, it's like these shooter guys at IRAM, it's like they couldn't help themselves. Because the way this game is, like, you get through the first... Each level is split up into 2 half levels, which I don't really understand. Like, you play through the half of the level, there's a boss battle, you beat the boss, it fades to black, it fades back in, you're somewhere else completely, you fight through that area, beat another boss, and then it says, that's the end of stage 1. Which, like, I mean, it's semantics, right? Who cares? But to me, it's like, those are kind of 2 separate levels, but whatever. So you play the first half of level 1 of Mr. Helly, and yeah, it's all like beep bop boop with the upbeat music, and everything's brightly colored, and then you beat the first boss, fade out, fade back in, you're in this cave, it's dark, you can't see anything, the only way there's any light is if you shoot one of the walls of the cave, it illuminates just that part of the screen. And that only lasts for like a few seconds, because you go shoot this door to open up the rest of the level, and then like magically they turn the lights on. But then you see like all of the pixel art is like standard, like it all could have come straight out of R-Type. Everything is back to being like sort of grainy and using darker colors, and that's the way, as much of the rest of the game I've seen, that's the way the whole rest of the game is. It's like I said, the guys at IRAM, this is the kind of game that we make. I can't help you. Which to me is great. Like, the game would have been great either way, but I think that I'm not as big of a fan of the first half of the first level, but after that, the game is a ton of fun. So Mr. Helly, like I said, he's a little helicopter. So you can fly all over the screen the way you can with any other shooter, I guess, but he controls a little bit differently because he feels a little bit different because he's a helicopter. You can shoot, like your main weapon shoots straight ahead, and it's sort of just like a pulse laser, I guess I would say. And then with the other button, with the 2 button, I think on the controller is the main weapon, and then the 1 button, you shoot like a missile out of the top of Mr. Helly. You can also land. If you land and push down on the D-pad, you drop bombs instead. Hold on, my mouth is getting dry. It's hard to explain all this. So, when you're flying around, you shoot straight forward, you shoot straight up. Although the missiles that go up, those will move around. And then if you land, you drop bombs. And the main reason that it's not really even the main reason, but one of the main reasons you want to be able to shoot in those directions is that in any given level, there are, usually above and below you, but not always, there are these different tiles that they look like bricks that are like brittle. And if you shoot them, you'll see that there's like crystals behind them. So if you shoot them all out, if they're on the ceiling, these crystals will fall down. If they're already on the floor, then you destroy all the bricks and you pick up the crystals. And what those are like your currency in the game. So that's like how you buy power-ups. But there's really big crystals and there's like little crystals. Like really big crystals are like $100, little crystals are like $20 or something like that. But then the way you buy upgrades, there's not like a shop. So like if you're playing a game like Forgotten Worlds, Fantasy Zone, Ordyne, Magical Chase, those games have like shops, and at some point in the level the shop shows up, you fly over to the shop, the screen changes, and it's like, all right, what do you want to buy for your ship? So Mr. Helly doesn't work that way. So behind some of these brittle bricks, instead of being like gems or crystals or whatever, you'll unlock this power-up, and it'll have the little symbol for the power-up, and above it, it'll have the price. And if you have enough money, then that little symbol will be all like filled in. If you don't have enough money, it's grayed out, because like you can't have that. And so if you have enough money and you want that power-up, you just fly Mr. Helly over that tile, and you'll buy it. And power-ups include like health increases. So Mr. Helly also has a life bar, like 1943 does, but Mr. Helly, you have 3 lives still. The life bar is not quite as long, but you have ample opportunity to refill your health. You can buy like small health increases or much larger health increases. You can upgrade your main weapon, so you get like 3 or 4 beams, and you upgrade it more, and then you get like this huge, like there's beams going straight, there's beams moving in a sine wave, and it's like really huge. You can upgrade. Like you start off, you shoot 1 missile out of the top of your head or whatever, and you can upgrade it to 3 and then to 5. What else? Oh, shields. You can get shields. So you buy this thing, and then you have like this shield that goes all the way around Mr. Helly. That's pretty cool. And the game's just a ton of fun to play. I like it a lot. It's not easy, I wouldn't say, but like especially some of the boss battles, like the second level boss battle is really difficult. But the graphics, I think, are really cool. Like I said, the first half of the first level has more of that cartoony look, but after that, it just looks more like you're playing. Even the enemy designs and the pixel art and the atmosphere and the music all has more of the ambiance of like a standard IRAM shooter. And one thing graphics-wise that just really stuck out to me is, I think it's in the second level, you're going... Oh, I should mention, Mr. Helly is horizontally oriented, but the game scrolls in like all directions. So at the second level, when you start the second level, like you're scrolling up through this cave, and then you get to the top, and like this door like slides open, and you go through it, and then now you're scrolling horizontally, and it's like all of a sudden like you're in this jungle, but there's like volcanoes on the floor and on the ceiling. And I don't know, the first time I played it, like the volcanoes shoot out like these plumes of fire that just look so... when I saw it, I thought like that looks like it's out of like a Metal Slug game on the Neo Geo. It just looks so nice. But I mean, the game, like I said, it's like a $50 game, and it is so much fun. And it's a real shame. So the game was never ported to any other home console, and it was a PC Engine in Japan. Didn't come out. It's too bad. I think the game would have fit in, I think, well in the TurboGrafx 16 library. It only got ported to home computers, but it was mostly home computers that weren't as popular here in North America. And I can't remember, it wasn't called Mr. Helly on a lot of those. They gave it some different name in the West. But it came out for like the Atari ST, the Amiga, the Amstrad CPC, the ZX Spectrum, and the Commodore 64. And the Atari ST version is not very good, and then the Amiga version is a port of the Atari ST version, so that's not good either. But the version, so I didn't play any of those versions. I just watched YouTube gameplay videos, just because I don't have any. The only one of those computers I have is well, that's not true. I have a Commodore 64 and an Amiga. All right, I was lazy and I didn't want to set them up. I just watched some gameplay videos. But the version that looked the most impressive to me was actually the Commodore 64 version. Obviously, the graphics aren't as good, like the colors are not as bright and whatnot. But the game, like on the Atari ST and the Amiga, the game is super choppy. But on the Commodore 64, it was very smooth. But the music sounded like, it was like this bumping, banging. It was the same music, but that's one thing that the Commodore 64 is really known for, is its musical capabilities. And when I heard that, I was like, where can I download the Commodore 64 soundtrack for this game? Because it sounded so good. But the game also just looked like it played the best. Like it was all very smooth and whatnot. It's just that from what I saw, it seems like you have to pick. Like you can either have sound effects or you can have music, but you can't have both. But anyway, getting back to the PC Engine version, I highly recommend that you check out Mr. Helly for the PC Engine. Just load it up in an emulator, or however you play ROMs or whatever, or buy the game. Like I would feel confident if you just want to like not even, you want to surprise yourself. That's an excellent way to spend $50 on a retro game, in my opinion. Okay, so next, how am I going to explain this? All right, so we're going to get into some more of the hypocrisy, I guess, but I have to explain why. So first of all, if I move the camera a little bit, you can see where's my finger? Right here is my PC Engine Duo R. And that came back to me in, I don't know, maybe February of last year. So I've had that Duo R for, I think, since 2011. But when I bought it off of this eBay seller in Japan. I won't say their name, but they were kind of well known in the PC Engine community. I didn't know yet. They were well known for doing pretty shoddy mod work at the time. But the guy lived in Japan. He went out to places like Super Potato and Hard Off, and bought up all the PC Engine Duos, Duo Rs, and Duo RXs, and would do RGB mods and region mods, and then sell them on eBay. So I think it was about, back then it was maybe like $275 for it came with the system and all the hookups and everything that you needed. So I mean, it wasn't a bad price, except that the mod work wasn't very good. Like I said, I didn't know that when I bought it, but then later I started seeing like comments and stuff on the PC Engine FX forums of people kind of talking saying not nice things about that guy's work, and I was like, oh well, that's kind of a bummer. And I will say that when I got this system, if I had to, when I plugged in the RGB cable, I had to make sure I sort of pushed it down a little bit, like down, or I wouldn't get all the colors on the screen. So I mean, when I got that, I was like, well, that's kind of crappy, but as long as you kept it like that and didn't touch it, it was fine. But because I'm not going to send it, I don't even know what it would cost to send back to Japan, but it would have been not worth it. So I mean, that's something to be careful of when you buy stuff like that from another country, is that like it's going to cost a lot of money to return it. So anyway, so at some point I wanted to get the mod work redone, to have it sort of done properly. And I'm sure he wouldn't want credit for this because he doesn't want to do this kind of work. But because, we're kind of friends with each other, Voltar did it for me. So I sent it to him. He cleaned out all of the existing mod work. So he took out the RGB amplifier that was in there. He took out the region mod that was in there. And he put in his own RGB PC Engine board that he designed. And then I don't remember who makes the region mod, so I don't want to say and be wrong. But so he redid all the mod work and sent it back to me. And I'm saying he maybe wouldn't want me saying that he did it because it's not really the kind of work that he wants to do. In fact, I think he's come out on Twitter and just straight up said that he doesn't want to be redoing other people's mod work, which I completely understand. So I would say probably don't bother asking because he's probably going to tell you no, unfortunately. Part of the reason I mentioned that is that that did come back in 2021, but it kind of refocused the kind of games that I wanted to buy. Because this setup over here, I've shown this before. This is where it's out of frame down here. This is where my big BVM is. And then I have all my consoles here. And this is where I sit if I just want to play games for myself. Not like I don't have a way to record gameplay footage over here. But, for recording gameplay footage and stuff, I use a Mister. So I can play CD games and everything on the Mister, which is fine. I mean, if the emulation's not perfect, I can't tell. And normally the Mister's down in the basement, and so I'll sit down there and, record gameplay footage that way, but then I'm playing in the capture window usually, and it's sort of not ideal. But this system is really for me to play on. But there's, of course, no way to load, ISOs of, CD-based games. And, some people say that it's fine to burn games. Other people say that, as far as fine, for the hardware, other people say, oh, yeah, you shouldn't do that. And for me, it's I'm a little overprotective of my stuff. And so if there's even a chance that that's damaging the laser, I don't want to do it. You do whatever you want. I'm just saying I don't want to take that risk. So I only want to have pressed copies of whatever CD games I want to play. The other thing that we have to mention before I talk about the next two games is that this is the only thing I bought on Black Friday last year, is from Stone Age Gamer, I bought a new PC EverDrive. So I had the original Turbo EverDrive, the version 1, that I bought that right when it came out. And so I never got the version 2. I don't remember how much this was, but it was 70 something. It was a pretty good Black Friday deal. And this way it comes with a nice case. The board has a cover over it. I don't know. It's nicer, but then it runs on the correct voltage and whatnot. It probably doesn't really matter, but I went ahead and I wanted to grab that anyway. And part of the reason I mentioned that is because basically, I downloaded the complete ROM set for PC Engine and TurboGrafx, and I even made a favorites folder to put the games that I play most often so I can find them quickly. And, I rearranged all the shooter folders to, so it's a really nice curated ROM set that's on here. And this thing just lives in the HuCard slot on my Duo. And the reason I mention that is because, I said in the last PC Engine Pickups video that I wasn't really, I think that HuCards are more fun and exciting to collect than CD games. And I still believe that. But at the same time, I feel am I gonna buy that game? Am I really gonna play that game? Because then I have to take the EverDrive out of the slot, which already has the game on it, just so I can put the HuCard into the slot and play it. And so to me, I feel and especially after what I just said about 1943 Kai, which cost significantly more than that EverDrive did. Do I really want to do something like that again? Do I want to buy higher priced HuCard games when I would rather take that money and spend it on CD games so that I can still play them on my hardware, original hardware, without burning the disc? And so for that reason, now I'm focusing more on buying CD games. I think I bought... I can only think of one HuCard game that I've bought. I've bought some more PC Engine games this year because I just sold a bunch of stuff. So I sort of took that money and bought some more PC Engine games. That'll be for another video. But I can only think of, off the top of my head, I think there's only one of those games that's a HuCard. Because that was the game I really wanted to have in my collection. So all that is to say that the last two games I'm talking about are CD games, even though I had said that I wasn't really wanting to buy CD games anymore. And the first game is another game that I said in the last video that I wasn't really that keen on buying. I ended up reading more about it and I kind of changed my mind. So I ended up buying the game. And that is Star Peroger. And I've said this before on a live stream, I think. I'll just say it again. Listen, far be it from me to be the pronunciation police, right? Like, who called it Gradius? Who said Galaga? Me, right? And so I'm not the kind of person... You say this however you want. The correct pronunciation of this game is Star Peroger, because it's a portmanteau of parody and soldier, because this is a parody game of the Soldier series. And the only reason it kind of, I can't help it, we all get annoyed. It annoys me to see other YouTubers mispronouncing the name of this game as like Star Parodier or Star Parodier, only because this game says its name at the end of every level. As everybody I think knows by now, I'm just a huge fan of the Soldier games on the PC Engine and TurboGrafx. Superstar Soldier, Final Soldier, and Soldier Blade. Superstar Soldier is my least favorite of those three, but they're all great games. And Blazing Lasers / Gunhead. Some people, well, is that part of the Soldier series? Is it not part of the Soldier series? Superstar Soldier was almost called Blazing Lasers 2. So it's like, whether it's part of the Soldier series or not, I mean, they were all developed by different people anyway, I guess under the direction of Hudson. There's a pedigree there, right? The games they control very similarly. They use like the same sort of speed up, or speed adjustment systems, whatever. This is part of the Soldier series, the Star Peroger. And although one thing I'll say about that's interesting, for people who are like, Gunhead is not part of the series or whatever, there's a level in this game that is straight out of Blazing Lasers. So to me, it was like, well, there you go. This game was developed by Canico, who also did Superstar Soldier. And they did another game we're going to talk about in a minute. All the Soldier games were developed by, like, Blazing Lasers was Compile, Superstar Soldier was Canico, Final Soldier was Now Productions, and Soldier Blade was Hudson themselves. This one was Canico. This game, so, again, it's a parody game like Proteus Da, so it's very cartoony, it's got lots of jokes in it. This game differs from the Proteus series, at least for me. Although I shouldn't say the series, I've only played Proteus Da. Proteus Da is like a cartoony, jokey shooter, but it's still a pretty hard game. Like, I think the difficulty is on par with like other Konami shooters, like the shooters that it's parodying. This game, well, I guess I would say this game the difficulty is kind of on par with the rest of the Soldier series, which are much easier games. Like you can sit down and play this game and like your palms are not going to be sweating because it's so difficult. Like the first time I sat down and seriously was like, all right, I'm going to play this game. I got to, I think, the second to last boss. And even then, and I don't think I died more than once or twice until I got to like the second to last level. And then even then it was because whatever, I forgot which level it is exactly, but it's sort of a parody of like the the meteor or asteroid, I guess asteroid, right? Asteroid levels from other games, but instead of asteroids, they're like balloons. But there's just like a ton of them on the screen, and there's a specific weapon in this game that just like destroys all those balloons. But like I like to use the Vulcan gun in pretty much every game that offers the Vulcan gun, which in this game is not good for that specific level. But I was being so stubborn that I just kept, letting it restart again and again and again. Because by that time I had like this game gives you extra lives like crazy. I think I had like 15 lives, and I blew through all of them. Because for me, like the idea of switching weapons didn't even really occur to me. But my point is, the game is not difficult. You could beat this game, I'm sure, very easily. Even if you're not, good at shooters. This game, you can play as, what shows on the cover here. You can play as the ship from Superstar Soldier, which the game calls Pero Caesar. I didn't know the ship had a name, but well, there you go. You can play as Bomberman, and you can play as a PC Engine. And if you play this game, this is a game that has a pretty long intro cinematic. And even though it's in Japanese, you don't need to understand. It's totally worth sitting and watching. It's really, really cool. I always play as, I guess, Pero Caesar, just because whatever. But they each have different weapons that they use. And if you play as the PC Engine, one of the weapons you can have are CDs, so you actually shoot out CDs like a spread shot. If you pick up the shields, it's 2 PC Engine controllers orbiting around you. But I don't think the game plays that much differently depending on which of the characters you choose. So, there's a level in here that's a parody of Bomberman. That's pretty cool. And then you fight the boss you fight is Evil Bomberman, who's huge. But so it's more, I guess, kind of a parody of a couple of Hudson Soft properties. But really fun game, really good graphics. It's a CD game, so it's got great music. And this game's only about $70, which I understand $70 is a lot of money. Although, hey, would you rather have Star Peroger, or would you rather have Madden 22? I would take Star Peroger any day of the week. I'm just saying, in the spectrum of PC Engine shooters, this is one of the more affordable ones. And I don't know. It's just, this game is fun. This game is not challenging for anybody who's even remotely good at shooters. But to me, it's not the point. It's I want to sit down in my chair here and just relax and play a fun shooter without, getting stressed out or getting sweaty palms. Star Peroger fits the bill perfectly for that. So, a really cool game. And then the last game we have here, after I got Soldier Blade, which I showed in the last, Soldier Blade, when I bought it, was my most wanted PC Engine game, and I was so happy and so excited to get it. And after I got it, my most wanted PC Engine game became this one, Nexer. Nexer is an amazing vertically scrolling shooter. And, I just finished talking about how much I love the Soldier series. Nexer is not part of the Soldier series, but again, there's a pedigree there. Nexer was developed by Kaneko, who, as I just said, did Star Peroger and Superstar Soldier. And you can really see the similarities. The game controls very similarly. If you like the way the Soldier games feel, you will love Nexer. Nexer is much, much more difficult than the Soldier series, which to me is good. I love difficult shooters, as long as it's not unfair. And most shooters, I don't think, most good shooters, I'm trying to think of a game where I think like a game like Image Fight. Image Fight is punishingly hard. R-Type is pretty hard. I don't feel like they're unfair. You're just going to die a lot while you learn how to play the game. And that's how Nexer is. right from the first level. The first level of Nexer is not easy. It's not trying to like ease you into the game. It's trying to destroy you right from the get-go. But it does it in a way where every time you die, you learn. Oh, okay, I got to be over here. I got to be over there. I got to do this. I got to do that. And as you learn it, like that's a very fulfilling experience, because then now you can get a little bit deeper into the game and a little bit deeper, and you feel like more and more of an expert the more you learn. This game also has maybe one of the best intro cinematics I've ever seen. Like, Final Fantasy VII has the best intro cinematic of any game I can think of off the top of my head. But Nexer's right up there. And you don't have to understand Japanese to get like the gist of what's going on. But if you go over and check out Shmup Junkie's channel, Shmup Junkie, I'll try to remember to put a link in the description box. He did a whole video about Nexer. Like, it's like a 25-minute video about this game. It kind of has spoilers, I would say. I would almost say, like, if you've never played the game, don't watch the whole video. Like, watch, like, the first half, so that he tells you how awesome it is and why you should play it. Because he, like, hired a translator to translate the entire intro, and then he put subtitles. And you don't have to understand Japanese to get the basic idea of what's going on in the intro, but it's 10 times better when you have the subtitles and you can understand exactly what everybody is saying. This game, another interesting thing, there's this trope in video games that you have to like save your girlfriend or save your wife or save the princess. And one thing I like about this game is a huge revenge mission. So I'll give you like the basic, like the broad strokes of what happens in the intro, right? So you're in like the Space Force of whatever planet that you live on, and the game starts and you're going out like into so your planet is like at war with some other civilization that's trying to like invade and take over your planet, right? So you go out in your ship and on patrol or whatever, and then like your wingman or your partner is like ostensibly your girlfriend. Like, that's what I feel. They don't say it, but that seems like it's strongly hinted at. Japanese people seem like very romantic people. Every video game involves like some kind of romantic story, and so maybe that's why I assume that it's your girlfriend. Your name, by the way, is Randy, and your girlfriend's name is Shirdy, not Shirley, Shirdy. Anyway, you go out on patrol, and they're talking back and forth, and then she's saying something about like, oh, there's this thing popped up on my scanners, I'm gonna go check it out. And Randy's kind of telling her like, hey, you pump your brakes a little bit, but she's all gung-ho, and she goes out and it's showing like the targeting computer is trying to like target this thing, and she's like shooting into space but not hitting it, and then all of a sudden it like rises up and takes over the whole screen, and it's like this big mech. And the whole time, like, Randy's like screaming at her like to stop or whatever. She screams, and then it switches over, and it's just her, but like without any of her space stuff on, and it's like she's floating through space, and like her hair is waving behind her, and there's just like a tear that comes out of her eye, because what basically happened, that's like her spirit, because like the big mech murdered your girlfriend, right? And so then it goes back to the narrator talking about like after this battle, that was like the last battle of the war. Your side lost. And so now you, Randy, are part of like this resistance force who is going to still go out and try to like, defeat the enemy even though you've already lost, right? So they build this ship for you called the Slasher, and they're going to send you out solo, into space to go like take on the entire enemy armada, like the last Starfighter style, and destroy them, right? And so like, yeah, you're fighting for your planet, but you're also getting revenge because this dude killed your girlfriend. Awesome story, I think. But then like, so the whole game, it has like this whole epic feel. It almost like, I feel like whoever designed this game was like, they were like Star Wars fans, which is understandable. like you're flying through even just the first stage, or what does it call? I think it calls it stages. Just some of the games call them different things: scenes, operations, levels, stages. Like there's these gigantic like Star Destroyer. They don't look like Star Destroyers, but I'm saying they're huge ships that will like. It's like they don't beam in. It's like if they came out of hyperspace, like they appear on the screen, but in a way where it's like they kind of like wah wah wah, and they come onto the screen like, oh, they just like came out of hyperspace. And so on top of all these little enemies going around, these big gigantic things appear on the screen, and some of them they shoot like these gigantic laser beams at you that are like 4 times wider than your entire ship. And so you have to dodge that, and then if you destroy the bridge of the ship, then the whole ship blows up. But I mean, it's not easy. The power-up system, so this is kind of cool. Like, this is one of the purest shooters you can play. Like, button 2 shoots, button 1 does nothing. So you can't adjust your speed. There's no, like, special auxiliary weapons. It's just you shooting, which I think is awesome. The power-up system, that's why I'm saying this game it's not part of the Soldier series. It's just like if you like the Soldier series, the dudes at Kaneko, whatever they learned making those games, they put into making Nexer. But so like the power-ups, it drops normal power-ups, right? It's like you have a normal gun that shoots straight ahead. You can pick up spread weapons or stuff that shoots to the side. You can pick up like these weird like they're like lasers, but they're like homing lasers. I don't know, they're pretty cool. You can pick up shields, and if you get shields, the shield basically gives you like 1 extra hit point, because this is a kind of shooter where you get 1-hit deaths. If you get the shield, now you can take 2 hits instead of 1. So that's pretty cool. But I mean, the game is very, very difficult. But again, it's just like as you learn how to get past each part of the game, it's not difficult anymore. You just have to figure out how to get past each thing. And Bithead made a video about Nexer, and I remember him talking about, he was like, there is this scumbag mid-level boss in level 2. And yeah, the boss is a scumbag. So like this thing comes down, it looks like this big orb, and it comes down, and then these arms come folding out of it, and they come down so that you're trapped between the 2 arms. And then on each arm, this little gun turret comes down, and the gun turrets move up and down the arms like independently, and they're both shooting at you. And when you're first playing the game, you're just trying to dodge the bullets and shoot the thing, and of course you get killed. And what I finally figured out is like, if you only move up and down but don't move to the side, you can easily dodge all the bullets and then kill the guy. And then you're just like, even though this was a thing where maybe you were getting stuck, where you were dying 90% of the time, as soon as you realize, that's what I got to do, the game gets way, way easier. I don't remember what I paid for Nexer. It was kind of a lot. Maybe it was like $180. I really don't remember. It was a lot. But at least for me, like totally, totally worth it. So, and after that, I mean, I've got 2 more games coming in the mail that were like games that I really wanted. And after that, I don't know. So I'll have 1 more of these pickups videos, I think, to do for the PC Engine, and then that might be it, because I feel like I'm very happy with the library that I have. I'm not trying to get like some kind of complete shooter library. And there's some shooters for the PC Engine that are well regarded by other people that either I'm not buying because they're expensive, or I'm not buying because I don't enjoy them enough to make it worth the money. Like Override, I would love to have Override. I think Override's a good game. Override is like a $200 and something game now. Like, I don't want that. Terra Cresta 2 is not even that good of a game, but it's like $500. Sylphia is like $500-600. Forget it. Magical Chase, I'm not a huge fan of Magical Chase, and that's over $1,000 now, so obviously I'm not doing that. And I would say the same thing about Sapphire, although I do have a pressed bootleg of Sapphire, so I can play Sapphire. So, but I wouldn't buy those games anyway. I said last time, I think my comfort zone for buying games is less than 100. I think it's gone up a little bit for certain PC Engine games. Plus, like I said, I'm buying these games by selling other games, so it's like, I'm just sort of moving assets around, as it were. So, anyway, that's it for this episode. 5 games that 4 of them I'm very happy to own. As I said, 1943. I mean, I'll keep it, I guess, but I'm not excited to have it. I wish I'd used that money to buy something else. But hey, that's life. So that's going to do it for this episode of CGQ Plus. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.